Welcome back to the Getting Up and Running series in Cassava. I'm your host, Michael Seeley, and in this episode, we'll be discussing content creation. Cassava uses the idea of chunking as the means to take a big concept and decompose it into its constituent elements. What this allows is for information to be learned in a much faster manner by having small chunks deliver to an audience over time. Information is represented by a number of high-level disciplines, which are further divided into their constituent principles. Each principle consists of one or more attachments, along with a number of optional assessments as a means of measuring the retention and adoption of the content. And this is how information is categorized in Cassava, and as you will see in the next section, how all of this comes together. In the last video, we saw that the quickest way to get up and running with Cassava was to publish the onboarding demo to your account. But the question becomes, what is the source of all of this content? And to answer that question, we will dive under the hood of Cassava. So let's take a minute and see if we can derive where all of these disciplines live and where all of the information for the different rounds exists. Here we are back in Cassava, and if we take a look at the onboarding demo, we will see that it is comprised of content. First, categorized with high-level disciplines on content creation, audience composition, preview, access rights and collaboration, and finally, engagement and insights. If we look at each discipline, we'll see that it's further categorized by principles, by assessments, and by attachments. Now, if we take a look at the experience itself, you'll see that it has a high-level description along with a featured image and some optional contact information. This is how an experience is built in Cassava. All of the content is organized first in high-level disciplines under which you have one or more principles, followed by one or more attachments and assessments. Let's see how all of this translates by creating your very first experience in Cassava. Let's assume that you were tasked with creating a training module for SMART goals. SMART goals is a productivity technique in which you create goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. What does this look like for each one of these categories? Well, for that, let's jump over to our blog. Here we have a blog article discussing SMART goals from a training module perspective. If we take a look at a mind map representing these SMART goals, we'll see that we have a number of high-level disciplines: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. If we drill into the specific discipline, we'll see that we have a number of principles. Is this SMART goal something that I want to accomplish? Why do I want to accomplish this goal? Who's involved in this particular goal? Same applies to the measurable discipline. I have principles around the idea of how much, how many, and how will I know when this goal has been accomplished. So, if we drill out, you'll see that this idea of SMART goals can be decomposed into disciplines, which can further be decomposed into principles. And within those principles, we can have all of the necessary relevant information in the form of attachments, and we can even propose assessments from these SMART goals to see how well the audience is learning this material. So, with this said, let's go and actually create this experience in Cassava. Here we are back in Cassava. Let's go ahead and create our first experience for SMART goals. And we'll call this SMART Goals 101. We know we have 5 top-level disciplines, so let's create those in one shot. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. And this is our initial framework for SMART goals. We can add some placeholder text for the experience itself, and we can go ahead and set a featured image for this experience. And let's use the mind map picture. We can take a look at that feature image, and there you go. So far we have our top level content. We know we have the 5 disciplines that we're going to be working on, and within each one we can go and add content for each discipline. Now let's see which one we want to work with first. Measurable. Within there we have 3 principles: how much, how many, and how will I know when it's accomplished. So let's go ahead and add those to the measurable discipline. So right now let's just put some placeholder text in here as well, and then let's go and create our first principle: how much. And once again we'll just throw some placeholder text in here, and if we look, we have a principle, our first principle, under the measurable discipline. We also know there's going to be another one on how many, I believe, and then one more principle on how will I know when it's done. So if we go back to the top level, we'll see right now we have 5 disciplines, and so far we've added 3 principles to the measurable discipline. And within each one of these now we could add more content in the form of attachments, in the form of assessments. And for now, for the sake of this demo, let's just attach the same PDF as we did to the experience. So far we have now, there you go, this attachment tied to this principle. And we could go ahead and create an assessment, but I will not jump into that right this second. But this is how an experience evolves with Cassava. You can build it over time, and when you're ready, you can publish this to your audience. So there you have it. Content Creation 101 with Cassava. We review the idea of chunking as a means of taking a big concept and decomposing it into much smaller portions, with the idea of delivering those over time to the audience. Information is represented first as disciplines. Then within each discipline you have 1 or more principles, and within each principle, one or more attachments or assessments. This is a pattern that's repeated over and over in Cassava to build the content of a training module. Next time, we'll get into how is this information, now that it's being gathered in Cassava, how is it rendered to an audience in Slack, Microsoft Teams, WebEx, or even email? So how do we go from content creation to actual rendering, with the idea of making sure we're delivering bite-sized chunks over time in order not to overwhelm your audience. Until then, have a good day.